Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for this quick learn webinar on interactive PDFs using InDesign and Acrobat. My name is Susie Johannes, and with me here I have Tennille Fincham. Tennille's going to be helping to monitor the chat dialogue in case you have questions and things like that. Just in case, if you can hear me now but you can't see the presentation, you may want to leave the meeting and then try to rejoin the meeting using that URL that I sent this morning through email. So hopefully everyone can hear and see. Perfect. Some people can hear me. Awesome. Just a couple things before we get started with the session. This is part of our Quick Learn series, our summer series of webinars. And what we're doing with these is we're trying to just focus on one topic and kind of do a demonstration or presentation all through Skype for Business. So today we're going to be talking about interactive PDFs. The one next week I think is on Excel tips and tricks. Let's see. If you do have questions, it's a great idea to submit them through chat. You could also speak to, say them as well, but chat might be the best way to go. And then you may have noticed we are recording this session. We record each session and then we post the session recording on our Quick Learn page of the KUIT website. So once we have this session posted, I'll send an email to everyone who registered with a link to that page, and you can forward it on to whomever you want to check out the session. There's other sessions there, such as OneNote that Tennille did. That was really great. There is email tips and tricks, lots of different things there. If this is your first time using Skype for Business for a meeting, it can be a good idea to maximize your window so you can see my screen as large as possible. If you're not, looks like everyone's muted. If you're not already muted, you may want to mute yourself just to cut down on feedback. And then if you do want to see the chat window in order to leave a message or something or ask a question, there's a little small icon in the lower left-hand corner of the conversation window that looks like a message, and that will expand that panel for you. Okay, what we're going to talk about today are interactive PDFs. First, we're going to start off with what are they and what can they do. Then we're going to get into options for creating PDFs. We're going to talk about Word, PowerPoint, including, InDesign like we talked about, and Acrobat. So I'm going to show you some options there of what things you can do with them, and then we're going to take some polls to see exactly what you all want to learn the most about. Depending on what we have there, we're going to talk about possibly InDesign, creating documents, exporting the documents to PDF, Acrobat, viewing and editing those PDFs, and then possibly forms, wrap up, and questions. So let's just get started with interactive PDFs. What are interactive PDFs? PDFs that are interactive are specifically designed for digital consumption. So a lot of times what we do is we create a print form or an annual report or a booklet or something, and we design it primarily to be printed, but then we create the PDF and put it up on a website or something like that for people who need to use it that way. When we're talking about interactive PDFs, what we're really talking about is designing that document with the intention of having the PDF distributed digitally as the primary method. And so when we think about our PDF in that way, what we start to do, or what we can do, is look more towards creating interactive elements such as bookmarks. So we'll look at those, but bookmarks is a special panel in Acrobat that it can allow you to jump to different sections quickly. Hyperlinks, a lot of times if you're using Word and creating your if you're using Word and then creating your PDF, those hyperlinks will come through, but in other programs they might not come through, such as InDesign. So we'll talk about how you can add those hyperlinks and that type of thing. Cross-references, those are a type of hyperlink, but they're basically just usually a link to another page within the document. So sometimes your table of contents will link to another page in the document with that topic. We have the ability to do buttons, so those can be helpful for creating. We have a portfolio project that I'll kind of show you, like an example project. You can use buttons. Back in my undergrad days, we would use buttons in Acrobat and PDF forms to create mock-ups of user interfaces. So without having to build the whole interface, we'd build the interface in InDesign or Illustrator, we'd create a PDF, and then we'd use buttons to link all the different pages together to give the interaction of it being something that was actually built out or coded, that type of thing. Page transitions, so kind of like in PowerPoint, how you can have animations between slides, you can have animations between pages or transitions between pages. We'll talk about that more, but you can only see that when you're viewing the PDF in a specific way, and you can set that as the default when people open your PDF so that they view it that way, but it can be cause a little bit of a hiccup or something like that, so we'll look more at that. And then finally, you know, interactivity can include fillable forms. So there is the ability in Word, in InDesign, to create fillable forms and then to have them so that people can fill them out in Acrobat. So what are the catch? You know, the catch is you can do this so many different ways. You know, you can create the document in Word or PowerPoint or InDesign, export it as a PDF, and then put the interactivity into the PDF in Acrobat. Or, you know, within Word, within PowerPoint, within InDesign, there's ways that you can do that. You can preserve or create that interactivity so that when you save or export as a PDF, that it's already set up. You know, I think we're going to probably end up talking about forms, but we'll see. You know, when talking about forms, my preference usually is to lay out the form in an authoring tool such as Word or InDesign, but then when it comes to actually adding in the fields, I prefer to actually do that in Acrobat Pro rather than using InDesign to enter the fields for me. There's things that InDesign will allow you to do, but they may not work. So there's the ability to add videos with an interactive PDF, but you know, I don't know if I'd rely on it heavily because it's very particular. You can't add videos from YouTube. You can't add other things like that. So, you know, you're going to want to test anything that you do. And then finally, there is a different format other than PDF that you might want to look into. It's called an Epub format. It's not, it's kind of new, I guess, but an Epub format, what that's primarily used for is digital books and mobile devices. So in order to read the Epub format, you have to have an Epub reader. On iPhones, on iPads, they have iBooks, and that reads that format. Android devices have other things that allow you to view those EPUBs. On our desktop computers, they usually don't come with a built-in EPUB format, so PDF is pretty much the go-to for that. So here's what I want to do before we get to the poll. First, I want to show you kind of some of the stuff that we've been talking about. So let me open some things here. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is just some basic functionality that's interactive, and that is, let's see here, that is just hyperlinks and bookmarks and that type of thing. So here I am. I'm actually in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC Document Center, and this is actually the most recent version of Acrobat Pro. So if you have Acrobat Pro 11, this is the newer version. You may or may not want to upgrade, especially if you're going to create forms, but we'll talk more about that. A couple things for those of you who are using DC already. Sometimes your documents will open like this. There's tiny little arrows on the left and on the right that will show you the menu options. So that took me a while to figure out. Hopefully it'll save you a little time. Here, this is just some documentation that Tennille and I created in Word, and as part of the default, when we exported it to PDF, it preserved the linking of the table of contents to the pages. And we may talk more about this depending on what the poll says, but when you use Word's built-in character styles and then you create a table of contents automatically in Word, it automatically creates these cross-references to the different sections. And then when you create a PDF, it preserves those. The other thing I did as I exported or saved as PDF, there's an options menu, and there you can choose to have these bookmarks set up. So these bookmarks are again using the character the styles and the headings here to pull in, make this little navigation here. So I kind of collapsed that to just get the basic main headings, maybe the heading 2, I can't remember, but that gives us that. So those are two very basic types of interactivity, and that's just working with a basic document that was created in Word. Now here I have a different type of thing that was created in InDesign. No, sorry. I have a different document. This was actually created in PowerPoint, and it's an example of a portfolio project. So this was the slide. It was a template that Microsoft had. I just kind of changed it a little bit. And so what I was able to do in PowerPoint was to create buttons that had actions that linked to different slides. And then from PowerPoint, I can save as PDF. And what that gives me is almost like a website kind of thing where I can click on the different buttons to go to the different projects. And then I added this table of contents so I can go back to the table of contents from each one of these. The cool thing about this example is that, if you are a student or interviewing for a job or whatever, or a client or a project, what's nice about it is you create it as the PowerPoint, and then you just simply export it as the PDF, and all of those buttons, all those options work. So after the interview or after the presentation, you can email this, and in the PDF form, they'll be able to click on all those things, and it will all still work. Okay, so that's an example of starting off with PowerPoint and using buttons, kind of like a hyperlink or a cross-reference. Now another project that's similar to that would be something that would be similar to like a annual report type project. Here, this is a warning we get about going into full screen. We'll talk more about that, but let me start. So this is like, let's say this is the annual report, but this is obviously not. In InDesign, the default is not to add these types of hyperlinks, but in InDesign you can do that type of thing, especially if your primary mode of distributing will be a PDF that you host online or do something like that. So here, this is a link that goes to their website. I can click, I get that page transition. This page here is an example of just a different type of table of contents, kind of me trying to get creative with it. Instead of having the name of all these different fish species, I made the image of the fish into a button in InDesign, and then it links to the page with that fish. I have buttons here for a table of contents, so I can go back to the table of contents, and then I can skip down here, I can fast forward through the different pages, and then at the end I can go back to the beginning. That's another button with a link back to the first page. I got a link to the Flickr gallery, that's just a URL hyperlink, and this is, I don't know what I did with that. That's a logo. I think it's going somewhere though, because we see the little hand there, so I might have linked it back to their website. All right, so those three examples I would say are interactivity that are more like this first part here: bookmarks, hyperlinks, cross-references, buttons, page transitions. The other big area here are fillable forms, and so you can create those. You can start off in Word. So let's see, here's one. I started off in Word with this one just to create the basic layout. and then saved it as a PDF, and then in Acrobat went to prepare form and just had Acrobat recognize all these form fields for me. So that's an example of a fillable form starting in Word and then using Acrobat to create the fields. Now you can do that same kind of thing from InDesign, but let's see, you know, you can create the layout in InDesign, and then you can either add the fields into InDesign, or we could come into Acrobat and add those fields. All right, so I kind of wanted to do that overview of all the things that are possible so that now I can go here and I can show you this. So I want to see what you guys are most interested, or what you guys most often do. Here we have different options. You can vote on an option by clicking on the radio button beside the option, and then there's one that's like I want to do it all, and we'll just give you maybe like a minute, and then we'll show you the results. Let me show you. Here we go. This is what we got. It's kind of evenly split. I mean, we got 17% here, but we got 57% wanting to do it all. Okay, let's look at another one here. I got another poll. Let me show you. Oops. This is kind of getting at the same thing, but I'm forcing you kind of to choose one or the other. So for those of you who can't see the poll, I have a one or the other choice just so I can see what's more important. Adding interactivity to documents or creating fillable forms. All right, let me show you this. I'm going to close it. I'm going to show it. Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about basic interactivity, because I think what we're going to do is we're still putting together the Quick Learn series for this fall. And I think what we're going to do is just do a quick learn on forms and surveys and all that stuff and go more into depth just on forms, because forms could fill up this entire session. So let's talk more about interactivity, and I'm going to start off with Word, and then we're going to get into PowerPoint, and then we're going to get into InDesign. So we're kind of going to build in complexity as far as programs go and go through those sample projects and just talk about how that's done. Okay. Thank you all for doing that. That's great. Here we go. This is an example of some documentation that Tennille and I do. We kind of have a template. It's mostly the same template, like the default template, but we have a few extra styles set up here. And so this first basic type of interactivity is just that table of contents that then links to places in your document, as well as just basic URLs. So let me scroll in here. Let's talk about basic URLs. So here, you know, the most basic way to do a URL is you can just paste the URL in there, and then once you hit period or space, it creates it into the URL. If you right-click on the URL, you get options for editing it, opening it, copying it, removing it. So here, I can just show you that again. And just like that, I have that URL. Now, if I'd want to make a URL of this word here, I could come up here, I could highlight it, come up here and say hyperlink, or Control K, I think it's Command K on Mac, will just open that box, and I can paste in my hyperlink there under address. There's other types of hyperlinks that are here, so placed into the document, kind of like commands, create new document, email address, but here this is the most common, I'd say, which is just a hyperlink to a web page. So here, you know, I can make that, instead of having this, I can make that into the link, especially if we're talking about having this be the primary distribution method, then that would all work. You know, for Tennille and I, we never know if these are going to get printed out, so we usually try to spell out the link and make it a link. So that's one way to add the hyperlink. Now, to add this table of contents in a way that is linked, you know, to the different sections and that is automatic, Let me remove it first. In order to do that, what you have to first do is actually use the styles that are within Word. Tennille talked a lot about styles in the Quick Learn that was 2 weeks ago. So if you want to know more about that, we have that recording on our website, and I'll make sure you have that as a follow-up, that link with a follow-up email. But basically, we have to come through here and we have to use these styles so that it knows what all of our major headings are. And then once we've done that, once we've created our styles, we come here to where we want to place our table of contents. I'm going to hide that. And we go up here to References, and all the way on the left here, Table of Contents. So here, I just click that. It has different styles. You can also customize it, but I'm just going to use the default. And now it kind of put me down way lower. Here, you know, now I see all of those links. And within my Word document, if I hover over, like it says, Control-click to follow document, all of them are linked. I just have to know that Control-click, and it will jump me down to that area. All right. So let's just say we're just dealing with those two things, which were hyperlinks and then the cross-references through the table of contents. If we want that to show up in our PDF, they're actually both of those are going to show up. So in order to create the PDF, we can go here and we can just say Save as Adobe PDF. It's going to make me save this first. Now here, just so you know, there are some options here, and there's some options right here too, like restrict editing, that type of thing. But here, if I say options, this is going to give me some more options. The big one here is that, you know, by default, the table of contents is going to come through, the hyperlinks are going to come through. But if we also want to create that bookmark ability to see the major headings as bookmarks, we're going to want to check this option as well. So with that, I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to say this is creating my PDF. All right, so I have my PDF here. If I scroll down and if I hover over these, I can see they all work. They go back to that first page. I also have, you know, my different, let's see here. I'm gonna go here. I have my different URLs and they all appear here as hyperlinks. Now, you might notice this, but the first time you try to click on one of these from Acrobat, it's going to ask you to allow that or to block it. So your users will have to say allow in order for that to work. The other thing that I got by checking that bookmark option is over here, the bookmarks panel. That's how I get this kind of table of contents all through bookmarks, because it's reading my main headings because I use those styles. All right, now if I'd have a problem with some of this stuff, let's talk about how to correct it. So for these hyperlinks and things like that, if I found out that this hyperlink was incorrect, it may be easiest to on the fly just fix it in PDF instead of going back to Word. I mean, eventually I'd want to do that just so that my source document was correct, but here I could just on the fly come over, and again, if you can't see these options, you might have to click this tiny little triangle, and I could come here and say Edit PDF. When I do that, you know, I can highlight this link. There's a link option here. Add or edit web link, that's what I would do. You know, if you have a document and the links aren't being picked up, or they didn't come through, or you didn't even create them in Word or something, auto create web links from URLs, that will search your entire document, find all the URLs, and make them links. remove web links would remove all the links, you know. Append all the links on the page. I'm not exactly sure why you'd use that unless you're maybe using some kind of tracking, special tracking codes or something. And view web links, I believe, will just launch those. But here, you know, I could do that to update this link if that was incorrect. If the text was incorrect, because I'm in that edit mode, I can just edit it here. So different options there for changing that. You know, if my bookmarks were bad or if I wanted to possibly remove some of these bookmarks, right here in the bookmarks panel, I probably just want to right click and, sorry about that, I can right click and just delete different options. Okay, so that's a little bit of interactivity within adding interactivity within PDF and Word, using Word. So questions there about starting from Word and moving into PDF? Okay, well, let's talk about PowerPoint then. Let's move on to that example. So, all right. So what I did here in PowerPoint, I just went to File. Whoops. Sorry about that. I went to File, New, and I just used the badge template that comes with PowerPoint. Oh. In Word, if you don't see the Save to PDF option, the other option you have, that's a great question. I don't exactly know why that wouldn't show up, but I have seen that before. You can also come here to Export, and that will give you PDF. So, I mean, it's nice if it's there, but this will also give you the ability to create a PDF, and you'll have the options there, just like the other PDF options. Okay, so in the portfolio, what I did, I just, you know, used the default template. I came here, and for these buttons, what I did is I just basically used, you know, created a box. I just even used the defaults and just typed some text. And then what I did is I took the box, I selected both, and this is a little tip or trick. If you hold down Shift as you're selecting, you can select both things. And here, under the Format tab, there's different options. So I don't know if I had to do this, but I aligned them and I grouped them together. And then, oh, okay. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Okay, so but what I basically did was, you know, I created a shape. Oh, can we edit this PDF? The PDF of the Word document is editable. Oh, can we change to PDF from Print tab? So yeah, you can print a PDF. Oh yeah, so great. Laura's like helping us answer it. So yeah, like Laura says, there you go. So you may not have all the options when you print a PDF, and it may not preserve all of those things that it does when you either export or save to PDF. So here what I have is a button. I created this within PowerPoint using these different tools here. You know, I ended up selecting the two things, the text box and the shape. I came on the Format tab, I aligned them and I grouped them together. And then on the Insert tab, I came here and when I chose it, I could choose from here, Insert. You can do this through hyperlink or you can do it through action, either one. Action, and then I can choose hyperlink to, next slide, previous slide, first slide, last slide, URL, other file, but I just went to the slide. I guess one step too that I did first is I actually created these slides. So I created my buttons, then I created the slides and kind of put the images on them, and then I hyperlinked the buttons. Because here, when I went here to insert, and that won't, let me do this one, action, slide. What it's going to allow me to do is just to choose from the different slides I've created. So that's a little bit of interaction there. Now, to get this information here, so where this goes back to the table of contents slide, this is actually it's actually created on what's called the slide master. So if you're somewhat new to InDesign, this might be a good thing to know. Here, if we go to view, there's an area here called slide master. And when we click on that, that's how we actually see all of the slides that are included in this template. And if there are items that we want to appear on all pages, such as back to table of contents, the best thing to do is add them to the very first slide at the top of this list. So here I created that, just like I did before, I created a box, and then I just created the text box here, with some text on it. I'll just do testing. I formatted that how I wanted it, and then here I just select both group, and then I can come here and insert. Now on this one, I've said, hyperlink to, and then always the slide with the projects, because that was the one that has my table of contents. And for this thing here, I have my portfolio. Here, if I put it on that master and I make it a link here, let me copy that first. So I did a Control K. I could have right-clicked and said add hyperlink, but here if I make that a hyperlink, then I have a special slide master tab. To get out of this master view, I can say close slide master or close master view, and now I've got that new button there along with my other buttons. So to see this, to test it out, you don't have to make your PDF yet. You can actually, let me try this. Mine's not working. So perfect. So you can actually test it right there in the presentation mode. So then, once you have your buttons and they're working and you have your slides set up like you want your presentation or your PDF to look, you basically from PowerPoint can come in here, say File, Save as Adobe PDF, or here Export, and then Create PDF. Either way should work. I'm going to do 2. I'm going to do 3. We have here, within PowerPoint, you have the same kind of options. And you'll see some extra PDF options here, such as Preserve Slide Transitions. Now, those will show up if you're viewing in full screen mode, but that's about it. But it's going to create bookmarks, all types of things. So we'll just say OK, save. So here I am in my portfolio. I can, I might want to make that a button. So if I click there, it goes to my next page instead of scrolling. But here I can switch to print design. I can go back. And these buttons aren't working, but the main ones were that I set up ahead of time. Also have those bookmarks created because we had checked that box when we created the PDF. Now, if these aren't working for any reason, I can correct these in Acrobat. So here, I'm going to pop out that panel again. If I go to Exit PDF, I can come here and I can, let's say here, this one wasn't working at all. I can say link, add or edit the link. And here what I can do is I can actually, within Acrobat, create a box to make that button. It's going to give me some options here. So link type, I want it to be invisible. And what I want it to do is to go to a page view. So that's all looking good. I can say next. Now it's going to tell me to go to that page and then click set the link. So here, let's say I want to go to page 3. Once I'm on that page, I can just say set link, and now that will work. So let's see, close. Now I can do that, go back to the table of contents. So I can do, I can do some of that linking from within Acrobat. I think it's definitely going to be easier for things like the repeating elements, like the back to table of contents and the footer, to do that within PowerPoint because you have the ability to add it to that master slide so that it can appear on everything. But there is some ability here, to edit and add those things. I think here, let's see. So, this one I can do the same type of thing. Okay, so questions there about starting in PowerPoint and then adding that interactivity and going into PDF. I mean, what we really did is we added buttons and links, kind of like we did in Word, only we made those hyperlinks cross-referencing to other slides. And then when we saved as PDF, we just chose the other option, an additional option, which allowed us to create those bookmarks. Okay, well, please leave your questions. I'll keep moving forward and then we'll talk about any questions as they come up. So that's some from PowerPoint. Now let's talk about InDesign. So let's see. So let's talk about this InDesign document and then I'll talk about how it was created. So what we have here are just, this is InDesign. This is my document here. I can scroll down. I also have the pages view that allows me to see all the pages. Now, one big thing with interactive PDFs in InDesign is right here, up at the top, we have this drop down, and this is the drop down that is showing you your workspace. By default, it's going to be this Essentials workspace, which just shows the very basic and is good for print projects. But if you're wanting to do InDesign interactive PDFs, there's a special interactive for PDF workspace. And what that will do is it will give you all of the different windows or panels that you may want to use to create interactive PDFs. So that's one big thing starting out. I'm going to walk you through, I'll start from scratch, how we created, the cover page with this URL link, and then how we created this page here for our contents, and then finally our individual pages. So what I did here to create this, I went to File, I went to New, and then Document. Now here, like I said, most of the time we start off with a print document because that's our primary mode, and then we just export it as a PDF. And here, if I want to actually make, online my primary way of distributing this PDF, I may want to choose web. That will give me some different web sizes or screen sizes. What I did was choose digital publishing, and that gives me mostly tablet sizes. And what I did was choose iPad Retina because that size I mean, my thinking behind it is that size is high enough resolution and a high enough size that it should work on a browser as well. So so that's what I did. I just went to Intent Digital Publishing, iPad Retina. For number of pages, I started off with 16, but I ended up having 17. And you know, one huge benefit of doing things this way is when you're working with print, you're trying to keep your cost as low as possible as far as how many pages. And most of the time you're having to work in page numbers of 4 so that you could finish it and have it be a folded booklet and saddle stitch it. But when you're working this way, you can have as many or as few pages as you want, and it can be any number of pages. Here, one more thing I did is I turned off this primary text frame. I think we'll see what this does, but the primary text frame, I'm going to turn it off here, but I'll show you in the original document what it does. What that'll do is it creates a text frame on every single page that covers the majority of the page. And I think the reasoning behind that is in case you would want to do a digital book that's a primarily text book, you basically could start off here, have, you know, overestimate how many pages you have, choose primary text frame, and then on your very first page you could paste your text and it would flow all throughout your document just by pasting it once. So that's the reason for the primary text frame. It has just one text box on each page that's linked together. Here I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to say OK. So here's my document. I have here my page view, shows me all the different pages in this document. Now we do offer an instructor-led InDesign Basics class that I recommend if some of the stuff is new for you, but here by default your A master, so this master page kind of template, is going to be applied to all of your pages by default. So we'll get into masters here in a minute, but first we're just going to lay out the cover page. To do that, I just first placed a picture, so I went to File, Place. I found a picture of a fish. I just clicked and I dragged and sized it like that. Came over here to my text tool, said something like Belize fish. I don't know exactly what they were called. I, centered that. I think I did all caps and this font. So I did that. And then down here, I just did another text box that said something like, oops, Smithsonian picture, or I don't know. There we go. So here, in order to make this a link to the website, what I did is I highlighted those words, came over here to the Hyperlinks panel. So if you haven't seen this before, that's because it's on most workspaces, it's hidden or it's not activated. So here I just came to Hyperlink. I chose, let's see, I'm going to pull this up here because it might be kind of hidden down there on the right. I went to the Hyperlinks panel. This is the new Hyperlink button. Chose that. And then here I copied and pasted the real URL, just put a little pound sign there for the website. Usually a good habit to get into as well is just to open that URL in a tab and then paste it there. So now what I have is a link. Now for this link, how this looks right here is determined by default by the character style. So we talk about this in the Getting Started, the Basics class, but paragraph and character styles, those are ways to really expedite creating your document. And so a paragraph style applies that text treatment or font treatment to everything within that paragraph. A character style can just include a subset of words. So here, if I want to change how that looks, I would need to modify the character style of hyperlink. So I can right click on that, I can do that, I can say edit. Maybe I want to come here and say no underline, maybe that's my thing. So now all hyperlinks won't have underlines. All right. Okay, so now let's talk about that table of contents. So we did that all picture table of contents. Here's going to be maybe some tips or tricks for the contents. Now, as I did something that was really quick here, I knew already that I wanted, I think, 12 images on this page. So I did that by just coming here and saying File, Place. And what I did is I just selected, I could come through here and just hold down Control and select the 12 that I want. Whoops. So like that. So I selected 12. Or if they were in a series, I could select the first one, hold down Shift, select the last one. Now when I click Open, I have them here and it gives me that number 12 right by the cursor there. So here's the big tip or trick. If, as I'm dragging this, it's only going to want me to place one image, but if I press the up arrow, I can start to tell it to place now 2 equally spaced images. But in this case, I want 4 rows and then I want 3 columns. So using the arrows on the keyboard as I'm dragging before I've let up on the mouse, I can create those individual spaces. And then when I let up, I just have them all created. And they're all equal. So that's great. So that saved me a whole lot of work as far as figuring out, what a third is and allowing for that gutter there and then putting all those images there. Cool. Yeah, I like showing that one because I don't know, when that happened for me, it was a big day. Okay. Oh yeah, let's do it again. So here in InDesign, first I go to File, I go to Place. I'm going to pick my images, so I just need to have 12. I'm going to start with the first one, and then I'm just going to hold down Shift and click the last one. So then when I click Open, it gives me the first image there with the number 12. So the big key is I click and drag to kind of, show that area there, but before I let up on the mouse, I hit arrow up. So now I've created 3 and now 4 rows. And then arrow right, that's going to give me now 3 columns. And so then now when I let up on the mouse, that just places all of my images for me. So then, moving on, for my individual pages, here on the page, what I did is I came here, I just started laying it out like I'd want it to appear. So I actually just copied this image because that's my first fish. I placed it right here on the page, and maybe it made it larger. I have some text here. Let's see if I... easily moving around images in another order. There are different ways to do that where they will like fill in automatically. But it requires a little bit more advanced setup. I can include in the follow-up a link to an article that will tell you how to do that easily. So anyway, I've filled in some stuff. Oh, were the images the same size? No, they weren't. That's a good question. So it just automatically fit them into that area. So here, I just added some text. I want to show you this too. In order to go back to table of contents, I came here and just used, the rectangle tool to create just an object here. And I'll just make this bright blue, who cares? So now I'll put something like back to table of contents. And I hope I spelled that right. Okay. So some of the stuff, you know, if you're interested in some of the stuff we're covering, we do a lot of this just basic kind of editing within that basics class. So yeah, look for that one. I think we need to schedule them for the fall. But so here, you know, I'm just going to come here. I made my button. I'm going to say object. I'm going to group that together. And then here, under buttons and forms, this is where I can kind of program this in order to make it so it always points back to my second page, which is my table of contents. So here, you know, for my page, I can come here, I can say this, button, I'm going to say add, go to, sorry, I wanted to say, let me delete that. Okay, so this is how you add the action. I'm going to say go to page. And here I'm going to say 2. So, the other way you could do that, and actually this might be actually the way I did it. Sorry about this, guys. You know, a button, all that really is a hyperlink. So I think I came here, went to hyperlink. I said, with that selected, I said new hyperlink. And now instead of URL, I said go to page 2. So, so I have the elements there, just really basic elements. And so to create my other pages, what I did is I created a new master using this as my master. So an easy way to do that is I just dragged that page up into this masters area, dropped it. So now I have what's called a B master, and maybe I need to copy and paste that on there. It doesn't want to paste. Maybe I need to recreate it on the master. So then what I can do is just apply that master to my different pages, and then I can swap out the content. Now in swapping out the content, that's another tip or trick, because anything you put on the master page is going to be locked. So here I can't actually select that by default. The keyboard shortcut here is Control Shift, or I believe Command Shift on Mac. When I Control Shift click, that unlocks that image, and now I can go and I can find the image of the next fish. So there. And then I just pasted in the information. Again, to unlock it here, I had to Control Shift click in order to paste in the new information. All right, we're getting close on time here, so I just need to wrap up this a little bit. So in order to link from my table of contents to my individual pages, again, what I did is for each image, I came, selected it, said hyperlink, and then added a hyperlink that went to the page with that fish on it. So with that, once you're done here, let's just see. You can come, one more thing actually. We did do page transitions in the example, and so here we have different page transitions. Now, at a page at a time, you can come here and whatever page you're on, you can choose that transition. Most of these will work. Page turn, I don't believe will work for most people. So there's different options here. Fade, you know, it kind of gives you a little bit of a preview of what it does. But also, as you're exporting this, so File. Now, when we go to make our PDF, instead of choosing PDF presets and choosing one of these print ones, we want to come here to Export, and here's where we want to choose Adobe PDF Interactive. So when we do that, we say Save. Now we get interactive options. So most of these are the default. File, Layout. Here, Presentation, Open in full screen mode. That will make it so your viewer is forced to see it as large as possible. And with that, you can say include the page transitions. Now this says page transitions from document, but if I wanted them all to fade, I could just come here and say fade. And that would save me some time. So I say okay. Here's the moment of truth to see if it actually works. So when you choose that full screen mode, your viewer is going to have to click yes here in order for it to actually launch that way. So now I have my new cover page. I go to my table of contents. If I click on this, it should go there. I go back to my table, see, and then that's not working. So that probably is why it didn't copy and paste. And you know, because it's a PDF, you can still scroll. All that will still work. Okay, well, there's 3 minutes left. We talked a little bit about those things. You know, there's other options here, including media. That, you know, it doesn't seem to work very well for most things. So, you know, just if you're going to try it and test it out to see if that works. There's the ability here to create those bookmarks. Those come through when you're actually looking at that bookmarks panel. With Adobe DC, we are going to update our course. We offer a course on Adobe Acrobat Pro, and we're going to be updating that soon to be a DC version. So, you know, sign up for that this fall if you want to learn more about some of the stuff that we covered here. All right, so with that, I'll just pause for any final questions or answer the questions I have, and then I'll let you all know when this recording is available in case you want to revisit any of the things that we created.